many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
And welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Thank you for joining me this evening. And thanks to Jules for the new intro there. Our other one was getting flagged on YouTube, so... Okay, getting into the news today, quite a few things. Some news about the police here, some more abuse issues coming out. Another, one, I'll kind of get into a few things, but, says here, I got one about the Second Amendment, the major hunting and outdoor store at the center of a big gun lawsuit. That one coming out of the blaze is something I'll be getting into. Let me bring it up here. There's a couple, actually, different, excessive use of force, things coming out. Here's one. Let's bring this one up, if it'll load. Of course, the moment I get online, everything goes to crap again. But, this one's after hearing state troopers comment to 18-year-old woman. Even the county prosecutor said he became sick to his stomach. Says with tensions apparently high following a fatal shooting of a state trooper, Michigan State Police Trooper Timothy Wagner claims he was being extra cautious when he drew his firearm and pointed it at an 18-year-old woman during a traffic stop last month. The incident caught on Wagner's dash cam sparked allegations of excessive force and a formal investigation. Though no criminal charges were ever filed, even St. Joseph County prosecutor John McDonough, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but said in a statement that he heard come out of the trooper's mouth made him sick to my stomach. And that was a quote from him. The incident began after Wagner says he clocked the woman's red Pontiac going 77 in a 55. The dashcam video shows the trooper activating his lights and siren before pulling a quick U-turn to pull over the driver. About 45 seconds after the U-turn, the woman had pulled over to the side of the road. Wagner is seen getting out of his car with his handgun already drawn and pointed at the car. He slowly approaches the vehicle and orders the woman to get out. The trooper then handcuffs the woman and takes her back to his cruiser. I chased you for 2 miles doing almost 80 miles an hour after I went right by you and turned around. That's the problem. The trooper can be heard telling the woman, you really have to pay attention to what's going on. The woman apologizes and tells Trooper she didn't see him immediately. She does not deny that she was driving too fast. Here's the part that the county prosecutor made him sick to his stomach, according to mlive.com. Towards the end of the audio, the trooper appears to ask the woman, "How do you like having a gun pointed?" The end of his statement is inaudible. The context of comment, possibly a joke, isn't entirely clear from the incomplete audio. Watch the video here, which I can play the audio, but I don't think it'll do it justice. The woman apparently claimed that there was a report of a burglary at her residence and she was in a hurry to get home. Wagner confirmed the burglary report and eventually let the woman go with a ticket, though he said he probably should take her to jail. After reviewing the case, McDonough decided there was not enough evidence to warrant criminal charges. However, he made his disapproval of the officer's actions known. He asked if she enjoyed having a gun pointed at her. "I became sick to my stomach," McDonough wrote in a statement. "I do not want Trooper Wagner to have the opportunity to do anything like this again, and certainly not in St. Joseph County." The Michigan State Police's Coldwater Post, where the trooper is stationed, also said Wagner's inappropriate behavior is not condoned or tolerated. In a statement provided to Detective First Lieutenant Chuck Christensen, Wagner explained why he reached the way he did. "Based on my 19 years plus, working road patrol, chasing a vehicle for a mile with lights and siren activated to conduct a traffic stop is extraordinarily unusual," Wagner said. "I have previously been involved in pursuit of this distance, which resulted in driver's subsequent attempt to flee on foot. I therefore consider the incident an attempt to flee or elude, which is a felony, and position myself to intercept the driver should he flee on foot." That's, that's unacceptable. But that's not the only thing going on out there. I have one here, and this is out of benswan.com. Chicago cops. Cop brutalizing woman says you'll be dead. Your family will be dead. And, I'm going to attempt to play this here. Which I think I got my audio situated, and we'll find out here. Okay, now let me get this queued up here. Okay, here's the clip.
Did I have to? I don't think I had to because I'm the police. Come back out here. Hey!
Okay, it seems like audio issue isn't fixed, or I don't know what's going on. I tested it out a crap load of times and had no issues. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. And honestly, I think it might be, I'm not sure what's going on here. But I guess, we'll just move along here. Says here, a woman has filed suit against the city of Chicago, as well as the Chicago Police Department after she was thrown to the ground and assaulted by officers during a raid of her saloon. The disturbing incident was captured on the saloon surveillance video. Police conducted a raid at the Coppertan and Spa owned by, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, but Jessica, we'll just call her Jessica. Last July, after an undercover officer had alleged that he had been offered sex for money at the establishment. According to the lawsuit, the first officers to arrive were not in uniform, and Jessica initially thought she was being robbed. Jessica screamed that she had done nothing wrong and pulled away from the officers attempting to detain her. The raid became violent as the video shows Jessica being swiftly grabbed by an officer and dragged down to the ground. The video also shows an officer hitting her on the head while she was kneeling, handcuffed on the ground. In addition to physical force, one of the officers, named as Officer Gerald D. Palesco, is in the lawsuit, became enraged, yelling that she wasn't a real American. Said, "You're not an effing American. I'll put you in a UPS box and send you back to wherever the F you came from." Jessica is an immigrant from China and has been a United States citizen since 2011 after she insisted she was an American citizen. D. Palesco's tirade continued. "No, you're not a citizen. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're here on borrowed time, so mind your effing business before I shut this whole effing place down, and I'll take this place, and then whoever owns it will effing kill you because they didn't care about you, okay? I'll take this building. You'll be dead and your family will be dead." Jessica had initially been the one charged with aggravated battery following the incident. Those charges were dismissed by a judge, although according to the Chicago Tribune, the police sought a felony indictment of Jessica. The lawsuit claims that in the surveillance video, the officer had realized they were being filmed and tried to find the recording. The lawsuit also alleges that the officers falsified police reports about what really happened at the salon. "I can't see how they have any business wearing the uniform," said Toria Hamilton, Jessica's attorney, at a press conference. According to the Tribune, 2 of the officers named in Jessica's lawsuit have already been investigated for assaulting an illegal immigrant during a sting in 2008. This is just another example of what people in uniform really feel about themselves. They have these imaginary, immortality ego going on here that they think that they're somehow morally above people because they wear a badge. And they need to realize that it's their conduct that gives them any type of, I wouldn't even say moral authority, but, maybe a respect that maybe people might look at them and go, okay, maybe I'll listen to this person, maybe I'll help this person. And it's based on your character, and, well, this shows a lack of character, in these types of officers that, you can't even attempt to claim moral authority over people when your morals are completely corrupt. It's pretty sad incident when you see, helpless people. This lady was at her business, she actually, immigrated and went through the whole legal process, becoming a American citizen, did everything that, she was supposed to. So, again, it's really sad. Okay. I'm going to attempt to play one more, and I'll have my audio playing in my ear in case it doesn't go through. This is Immortal Technique from We Are Change on Revolution and the Real American the Real History of America. And again, hopefully this plays here. And give me a second. Okay, again, we're having audio issues I don't understand. This honestly is only happening when I'm connected to the network. I'm not sure why. I went through, blew out the board, cleaned it up, cleaned all the terminals on it, tested everything out, went through all my audio controls, made sure they're set right, and I have no idea what is going on here. Okay. I actually rebrought it last Friday and it worked. So still kind of throwing me off here. I have one more thing I can try. Okay, I guess that's not working. So I'm going to go to another article I had up and hopefully I can get something going here. Let me bring this up here. And this one was out of benswan.com too. And what UKIP must learn from the American Liberty Movement. Of all their political parties that most Brits have heard of, only UKIP, the United Kingdom Independent Party, calls itself libertarian. Being only 2 decades old, UKIP, now polling 38% of the European elections this year and about 15% for the general election next year, have achieved a success on paper that the American Libertarian Party can only dream of. Indeed, in my work of helping the U.S. Liberty Movement achieve more success in changing the minds of the people and the politicians and policies that they support, I often point out that American activists can learn much from the UKIP has been doing right. Both the UKIP and the U.S. Libertarians form insurgent anti-establishment movements in an early stage of development. They are both influencing and drawing strength from public dissatisfaction with the current political settlement, but have not yet made significant changes to national electoral outcomes. For example, UKIP has not a single seat in the British Parliament and only a handful of representatives in the American House or Senate self-identify as aligned with the Liberty Movement's goals. So it was with some curiosity that I attended my first UKIP meeting on a visit back to England last month. It was a public town hall style meeting in the picture postcard county of Devon. An audience of around 60 heard 3 candidates and party executives speak for about 90 minutes. At similar meetings in the U.S., I am never the youngest in the room. In UKIP meetings in Devon, I was. So when questions were invited from the floor, I pointed out as much and asked if UKIP therefore had a problem. It does. Fortunately, one of the speakers was the chairman of the party, Stephen Crowther, who responded to my question with a fair one of his own. How did someone of my age manage to get out of work on a Friday morning? I didn't. I was on holiday. Later, during the obligatory tea and biscuits at the end of the public meeting in rural England, another member of the audience offered a different explanation. Older people, he suggested, were the only ones who could remember how things were before we Brit in the EU. That was sincerely meant, but to me unconvincing. After all, the younger members of the American Liberty Movement do not have much experience of their country when it was much freer before the Patriot Act, NDAA, extensive state-sponsored cronyism, corporatism, etc. But they don't need it. They discover their birthright of liberty by reading their own history, the Constitution, and the work of brilliant thinkers who developed the classical liberal tradition that excites them so much. In fact, most of the energy that drives the liberty movement in the U.S. is that of young adults. These men and women are becoming sufficiently numerous, and their passion is sufficiently strong, and the change toward liberty that we shall see in American politics over the next 2 generations will likely one day be seen to have had its root in this decade, in much the same way that the last 2 generations of progressivism and statism were rooted in the 60s. In the U.S., speeches made at anti-establishment, pro-liberty meetings are filled with statements of inspiring principles of individual liberty, of free enterprise, of progressive magic, of real capitalism, freedom from state interference, and surveillance of one's personal life, personal responsibility, and the rule of law, etc. In contrast, the speeches in Devon consist entirely of factual assertions and policy solutions. If it weren't for Crowther's utterance of 3 expressions at the very end of the 90 minutes, libertarian self-government and small government, it would not have been clear what political principles or vision united all the policies that had been offered. Moreover, given the lack of any exposition of those ideas as guiding principles, the only people in the room who would have known what those 3 terms meant were the ones who, like me, had been studied them before they entered the room. Since neither mainstream British politicians nor the British media ever used such terms, the people in the room who knew what they meant could definitely be counted on one hand. Of course, a political party should focus on facts and policy, but it is all a new party is doing, especially if the policies are out of necessity, largely negative, such as pulling out of the EU, reducing immigration, and offering a political home for those who are less than comfortable with gay marriage, than those with the political idealisms and energy required to turn an insurgent movement into a mainstream movement with longevity. Also call young people, it will be left entirely uninspired and potentially worse, alienated. During the week following that meeting, I spoke to quite a few Brits about UKIP. I found many quiet supporters. Their motivations were typically down-to-earth and British. Skepticism of the country's prevailing political settlement and class, a preference for people who called things as I see them, and a pragmatic desire to try new solutions to problems when the old ones have consistently failed and there was not a bigot or racist among them. That's all well and good, but not enough to prevent UKIP from winning its next battle. European elections next week, but losing the war to save the nation's sovereignty, and with it a small chance of keeping the astonishing long Anglo tradition of personal liberty and common law. In contrast, at a meeting in the U.S. of the Liberty Curious, at least one of those expressions that the party's chairman used at the end of his speech, libertarian self-government and small government, would not be used once in closing remarks, but repeated many, many times in the exposition of an exciting, positive, restorative vision of the for the nation. The approach would be to clarify and emphasize the fundamental principles of liberty, and only then discuss specific policies. taking care to show why they coherently pull toward the positive liberal vision. So, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but really what comes out of this is, we do have something here that I think is more positive than, a lot of the older, generation over there that is in charge of their so-called libertarian leaning party, is that we do have a very large group of young people. We are going to be the ones to transform it if we keep to our ideals, that real sense of liberty. And I think that the one problem we have with fighting for liberty is being fought right now on the youth, the real young generation right now, and that's in the public school systems. That's why I really I just recommend that you just do not put your kids in public school system, or you get them out, you pull them out, start homeschooling. There's a real fundamental problem right now in our public school systems, and it will help the tyrants gain control. And we've heard the statements that your kids don't belong to you, they belong to the community. We've heard all this, and you need to take those words serious because they're acting on it. They are actively fighting this. Give me a second here while I do something real quick. Just take me a quick second here. Hopefully. But, when we look at our policies today, when it's regarding children, if your child is playing before, the bus shows up and you got your two kids out in the front yard and they're playing, they got their squirt guns and, they're squirting each other, and they can be kicked out of school, they can be investigated. That this is where we are headed. This is not, something new. This is something that we are facing right now. And I think we really have to realize that. What you're doing on your private property, what your children do on private property, that is completely legal, is making them suspect. We have basically we have a mentality of some of these officers, and not all of them, but it seems to be more and more of these officers are getting the mentality, shoot until proven innocent. It's not, we're going to question until, or, guilty until proven innocent. It's shoot until proven innocent. Or draw your weapon on an 18-year-old girl that was speeding. Tell her how you like having a gun pointed at you. There's definitely something seriously wrong. And this is why we really have to start looking at what they're doing. Pop-Tart guns, finger guns, anything that has to do with the gun. Why? Because they're they're putting this fear into them. This is what they're doing. They're purposely going, these are bad. This results in cops coming and taking you away. Or the threat of a cop coming and taking you away. Just the simple, a squirt gun, a Pop-Tart gun. That's bad. That Pop-Tart gun might squirt some juice in someone's eye and they'll go blind. It's getting to a point that we can't allow, the children to be put into these indoctrination camps. And I always say, I know that there's people that they're in a situation where they don't feel they can do it, but I think it's getting to the point that, we don't have the choice any longer. We just need to get away from the public school system. We need to nullify federal laws that give any credence to federal governance over your children. We need to really start fighting at the local levels against CPS and this, what seems to be a industry on taking children. And then, you have the whole Pelletier thing going on out there at Boston's Children's Hospital and what they're doing. And their ability to experiment on basically state-owned children. The state claims ownership over these children like they're livestock, and then allows, Boston Children's Hospital be able to basically experiment on them. That is what we're facing today. This is not something that we're going to face in the future. That it's what we're facing now. Just because it hasn't reached your doorstep yet doesn't mean you're not facing it. You're facing the threat of it. Okay. Hopefully this will play because this is actually on my hard drive. 8 unsolvable philosophical questions solved. I can't speak today. So here, let me cue this up. Okay. Let me try this one more time. And still nothing. Okay. I have no idea. I have no idea, guys.
In the video. I hope you're doing very well.
Playing on Okay, yep. Yeah, that's a fail. Okay. I'm gonna have to do this a way I do not like doing. Just because I do need to take a break here. This way usually doesn't work too much better, but it does work, so. It's just getting decent sound quality out of its problem. I just seen something go by a news feed, whole bunch of Afghan police killed by rebels. So, nothing really new. Okay. Now, hopefully this works out perfect. Problem I have usually with this is, I don't have great cell phone service out here, so whether I'm getting a good connection with the tower is whether you get to hear it. But hopefully this works.
Essay entitled 8, because 7 is way too little and 9 is just crazy. 8 great philosophical questions that we'll never solve. It says, philosophy goes where hard science can't or won't. Philosophers have a license to speculate about everything from metaphysics to morality, and this means they can shed light on some of the basic questions of existence. The bad news, these are questions that may always lay just beyond the limits of our comprehension. Well, You will always have to be suspicious of people who begin to tell you what something is without telling you what its purpose is. So imagine if you find some alien artifact on Mars or something and you wanted to know what it was, the first thing that would be most helpful would be to know what it was used for, rather than what it was. You wouldn't really be able to tell, just know what it was used for. So the first question is, what is philosophy for? Now, once you know what philosophy is for, then you can sort of say, what it is. What's the scientific method for? Well, for determining objective, reproducible patterns of mathematics and predictability within matter and energy. What's biology for? What's geography for? Well, then you can know what they are, because the for includes methodology. What is medicine for? Medicine is for the maintenance and promotion and cure of diseases, maintenance and promotion of good health and cure of diseases. So once you know what a discipline is for, then you can figure out whether particular questions fit into that paradigm, right? So, do you like red is not a scientific question. What is the speed of light? That's a scientific question. And what is the acceleration of an object towards Earth's gravity? That is a question.
Again, some technical difficulties here.
Hi everybody, Stephen Mulligan. gravity? That is a question. Is jazz cool? Is not a scientific question. So you see, not every question is philosophical. So then the question becomes, what is philosophy for? What is the purpose of philosophy? Well, some people say it's the pursuit of truth. Scientists are also in the pursuit of truth, but we don't call them philosophers. And the nutritionists are in the pursuit of truth for best food and so on. Doctors in the pursuit of the best cure and so on. Right? So in pursuit of truth is not enough to call something philosophy. Answering questions about reality, how many grains of sand are there in all of the beaches in all of the world? I guess you could get an answer to that question. It would probably be changing all the time. Is that really philosophy? You need an objective methodology, you need very tiny tweezers and a lot of else, but is that really philosophy? I would say no. The one thing that philosophy has, I would argue, that other disciplines do not have, is the pursuit of virtue, the pursuit of moral excellence, the pursuit of goodness. Reason equals virtue equals happiness. If you are rational, you can be virtuous. If you are virtuous, that gives you the greatest chance of sustained happiness. So, the purpose of philosophy is the distillation and advocacy for moral excellence, moral principles. And so, this is, I think, very important. Almost all the other questions that you could imagine would fall into the realm of science. So their purpose is the promotion of moral excellence in the same way that medicine's purpose is the promotion of health. So once you know what philosophy is for, and again, I'm happy to hear arguments of the counter, but I think this is a pretty good case to say that the one thing that philosophy has that science and literature and other disciplines don't have, mathematics and so on, is the moral quality. I think that's the most important aspect of it. So I want you to just imagine a scenario at the moment. So you're involved in some horrible accident and your arm gets, shattered, and it's a nasty twist break, and it's, agonizing, and you stagger into the emergency room and you scream in agony to the doctor that my arm is shattered, I need morphine, I need a splint, I need, whatever, to make it better, and, all that. And the doctor comes up to you and says, interesting, but more important than that, more important than giving you morphine and binding up your arm, is why is your arm there at all? Why does your arm exist at all? Why is your arm not the opposite of an arm? Does your arm contain within it a perfect arm in another dimension that represents your arm? These questions would be maddening to you and irrelevant to the field of medicine. The field of medicine is, guy's in pain, his arm has been broken, we deal with the pain, we bind up the arm, we go for rehab, we attempt to restore him to his position of wholeness, of health. Why is the arm there at all is not the province of medicine. Why is the arm not the opposite of an arm is not the province of medicine. Does the arm contain a perfect platonic form of armness that will continue after the arm is gone, after the person has died? These would not be questions relevant to the field of medicine. All questions relevant to the field of medicine would be to do with how to make the arm whole again and to return the person to a state of optimum health. Everything else would be nonsense. So with that in mind, let's look at some of these questions. So the first one is, why is there something rather than nothing? Our presence in the universe is something too bizarre for words. Why does anything exist at all? As one writer says, nothing about modern physics explains why we have these laws rather than totally different laws, and so on. This has nothing to do with the promotion of moral excellence. It has nothing to do with philosophy, I would argue. It has nothing to do with anyone's thoughts who's old enough to pay their own rent, but it really doesn't have anything to do with philosophy. Why is the speed of light 186,000 miles per second, lighter objects fall towards the Earth at 9.8 meters per second, lighter gases expand when heated. These are not questions that philosophy has anything to do with. Why does the human body exist and has developed in the way that it does is a question for evolutionary biologists, but not for doctors. Right? So there may be questions that would be interesting to physicists in this area, but because it has nothing to do with moral excellence is the promotion of universal moral goals, then it has nothing to do with philosophy. It may be interesting for a scientist to figure out why certain laws are the way they are and so on, although I don't think that would be particularly interesting. Engineers would work with the laws that you have, can't dial up and down gravity or anything like that. So this has nothing to do with philosophy, in the same way that why is the arm not the opposite of an arm? Why is there an arm? Why do human beings exist? Why is the world round? Why are there no unicorns? These have nothing to do with helping somebody with a broken arm. The job of a philosopher, the goal and purpose of a philosopher, is to promote moral excellence among mankind. In the same way that the goal of a doctor is to promote healthy habits and to fix or repair diseased or broken bodies as best he or she can. So let's look at the second question. Is our universe real? So this is the classic Cartesian question that Descartes, which is the basic argument that we could be a brain in a tank and all of our sensory data are being manipulated by some demon who wishes to fool us. This whole thing could be a matrix of educational possibilities, which is a brain in a tank or whatever, right? Again, this has nothing to do with philosophy because it doesn't matter. That there's no way that the answer to that could ever be ascertained, right? This is a classic moving the goalpost scenario because there's no possible way that this could be established or not, right? And so, like, you can prove the matrix, you can unplug the matrix, you can go and see the world for what it is, and so on, right, in the movie. But you can't, if your entire sensory apparatus is being perfectly controlled by some external malevolent or benevolent consciousness, there's absolutely no way to ever figure that out. And of course, it has no fundamental bearing on moral questions, right? In the same way, if you shatter your arm and you go to the emergency room, the doctor says the most important question is not how to get rid of your pain or how to fix your arm. The most important question is your arm even real? Right? Any doctor who did that would be insane. I can understand that something fundamentally wrong with their brains. They would be having some sort of psychotic brain. I've never seen a medical show where a guy comes in with some piece of piping through his chest, and the head of ER says, "Whoa, wait, stop, everybody, stop! Don't touch that pipe." That's in fact what it really is. Don't touch those medicines. Don't inject him with any morphine. The most important and essential and elemental question is this all a simulation? Are we all just brains in a tank? Is this all a simulation from some alien life form trying to teach us something esoteric about what it means to be human, even though we're not human, we're just brains in a tank, in a lab, in a classroom, on Betelgeuse? Right? If somebody said that, people would you need to take a leave of absence. You need to have your head examined. You are insane. If you think that's the highest priority, guy's got a piece of piping sticking out of his chest and you're worrying about whether the piping is real or we're in the matrix or everything is simulated, you are mentally damaged. And this is philosophers like myself who are out there in the world promoting moral excellence look at these questions with a peculiar, creepy crawly spider up the spine kind of horror. Because people who are devoting time and energy focusing on these issues when the world is dying for a lack of virtue, right? When generations are being sold off into debt slavery to foreign bankers, when money is being created through force at the point of a gun, when wars are being fought for no reason whatsoever, when society is constantly eating itself with oligarchical power, people worrying about whether we're in the matrix or not, it does seem absolutely identical. I'm telling you, it looks absolutely identical to you submitting a script to some medical show saying everybody has to stop when someone has a piece of pipe through their chest and ask whether the pipe exists or anything exists or anything is real. I mean, somebody like that would be sued for malpractice. Tragically, this doesn't happen for academic philosophers. Do we have free will? Well, I've got lots of arguments about that. So I won't sort of go into that here. I think it's an interesting philosophical question. But I think that the answer is pretty clear. Most of what you do in philosophy is you try to figure out what the person is doing and then accept the philosophical arguments that underpin that. Right, so if somebody types in the text window and says, well, you can't really trust your senses, well, they're relying on your senses, your eyes, to see those letters accurately, and therefore they're relying on you to trust your senses to communicate that you can't trust your senses. Or somebody who writes to me and says, language is meaningless. Well, they're using language they're using the they're using the meaningfulness of language to communicate that language is meaningless. So this is all very silly. So you simply look at what somebody's doing. If somebody's trying to convince you, if somebody's trying to appeal to your rationality, if somebody's trying to change your mind, then they do accept that you're responsible for the contents of your mind, that you have a choice, and so on, right? So the only person who is a consistent determinist is somebody who will never try and tell you that they're a determinist or that determinism is true. Because if determinism is true, there's no such thing as true and false. Right? Since it's one of these self-detonating arguments about determinism. If a rock is bouncing down a hill, is there a good or a bad place for it to land objectively? Is there a true or false place for it to land? No. So the actions of human consciousness, if determinism is true and everything is just physical laws operating, there's no such thing as true and false. So the moment somebody tries to tell you that determinism is true, they're saying there's a true state, there's a false state, we should prefer the true state, we can change our minds to approach that true state, all of which are elements of free will arguments. Number 4, he says, does God exist? Well, it always bothers me when people say God rather than Zeus or the Tooth Fairy or square circles or anything like that. God is just one of these words that for most people has this emotional resonance, mostly to do with our memories of infancy and, people who appeared as deities to us, our parents, when we were babies. So it has this emotional resonance from people. So when you say, does God exist, people accept that one way. But if we were to say, does the Tooth Fairy exist? Do leprechauns exist? Do square circles exist? Then we would not get that same emotional resonance. And philosophy doesn't really care about emotional resonance. In fact, if you're into philosophy, emotional resonance is something that you should be enormously suspicious about because it is a way of shields down for the gods of truth, so the photon torpedoes can shatter the hull of reality for you. So does God exist? Well, God, what is God? God is a consciousness without matter. God is both omnipotent and all-powerful, which cannot coexist. If you're omnipotent, you can do anything that you want. But if you are all-knowing, then you have to know what you're going to do in the future and what's going to happen in the future. And you can't change that without invalidating your knowledge. So if you know everything that's going to happen in the future, you can't change it. So you can't be all-knowing and all-powerful at the same time. There's no such thing as consciousness without matter. That's like saying gravity without a mass. Gravity is an effective mass. So attraction is an effective mass. Light is excited atoms and photons. Heat is excited atoms. So the effects of matter, right, can't be separated from the matter itself. It's like me saying, I want to do a show, but I don't want to be anywhere near a camera and a microphone. Well, a show is in effect my proximity to the camera and to the microphone. So, you cannot separate the effects of matter from matter itself. So saying that there's consciousness without matter is like saying there's gravity without mass. It's simple. There's light without a light source. It simply doesn't occur. It doesn't happen. And for 6 million other reasons about the self-contradictory nature of a deity, you are actually defining God. God is defined as that which does not exist. Right? Self-contradictory entities cannot exist. Right? It's 2 kinds of things which don't exist. One is stuff that could exist we haven't found yet. Right? Could there be some 9-headed fish at the bottom of the Mariana Trench? Sure, there could be. Absolutely. Could there be unicorns on another planet? Could there be fire-breathing dragons orbiting some planet around Alpha Centauri? Yes, there could be. Right? So you can't say, you can say, no, we haven't found them yet. They may appear, they may seem improbable, but you cannot actually rule out their existence. Prima facie. But something like a square circle or 2 and 2 making 5, these things do not exist. The effects of matter without matter simply can never exist. The effects of matter without matter can never, because by definition they are the effects of matter. Like gravity is an effect of mass. You cannot have gravity without mass. Then it's something else. It's not gravity, it's something else. So you cannot have consciousness without matter. And therefore, if you say God is consciousness without matter, then you're saying something doesn't exist. And you're saying, when people say, does God exist? They're saying, do self-contradictory things which have no effect on matter and energy exist? Well, self-contradictory things cannot exist. And the way that we know something exists is it has an effect on matter and energy. That's how we know that it exists, right? You know you're not walking through the door, but rather against the wall when it hits your nose. Right? That's an effect of matter and energy. So when people say, does God exist? God being defined as a self-contradictory entity, which has no effect on matter and energy, well, these two things are synonyms for that which does not exist. So the true question when people say, does God exist? The true statement philosophically is, does that which does not exist exist? Well, to ask that is to answer it. But you have to put all these emotional layers on top so people can ask those simple questions. Is there life after death? Well, we have this would require an eternal aspect to consciousness. And we already have an example of our consciousness and matter not being together, which is not the question. The question is there life after death? Was there life before death? Do you remember the 17th century, the 18th century? Well, of course not. Your consciousness miraculously arose as an effect of your biological processes, right? The electrical energy, the chemical and biochemical energy in your brain. So we already have an example of whether we were alive before death, which is that we weren't, and therefore we have no reason to believe that we'd be alive after death. And people say, but the near-death experiences. See, near is the point. Nobody has been brain dead for 20 minutes and come back to life, right? Because it's like when you turn a radio off. The voices don't go somewhere, right? They vanish off and go and live on a cloud somewhere. The electrical energy which produced the voices has simply ceased to operate, and therefore it's become inert. So, no, of course there's no life after death, just as there was no life before death. Can you really experience anything objectively? Well, yes, this is the whole point behind science and philosophy, I would assume, particularly science. And people say, well, I look at red and you look at red and we see slightly different colors and so on. Of course, we're both looking at red and saying red, which is kind of a clown. But the objective term for color is wavelength, where you can convert it into a wave and you can measure it mathematically and so on. But it's funny how, can you really experience anything objectively? The man's typing it, using my sentences, using words, using language, and trying to communicate objective questions. So the premise of the article is that we can trust our senses, language has meaning, and we can experience these questions objectively, which is why he's not typing randomly. Right? What is the best moral system? Well, I sympathize with this. This is really the most important question of philosophy. I have a free book on my website at freedomainradio.com/free called Universally Preferable Behavior of Rational Improvement Sector Ethics. And I won't go into the whole history and theory of it right now, but I think that there is a way to define ethics objectively and universally, and it does check off the four major aspects of any moral system that we assume has to be good. It bans rape, it bans theft, it bans assault, and it bans murder. It just has the inconvenient effect of banning a lot of other things in society that we think are moral, and which the Pope recently said we should have more of. So, I won't go into the whole argument here. I really recommend checking out the book, Universally Preferable Behavior. It's completely free, audio book, and PDF, and HTML, and so on. But yes, I think I've made a very good case for universal ethics, but I understand that is something, but he says it can never be achieved. It can never be achieved, and this is simply not true. So his eighth question is, what are numbers? And it's really the question of the relationship between concept and empiricism, right? So trees exist. Trees are sort of united biological entities. But a forest, which is an aggregation, the concept, an aggregation that we call, the trees exist, the forest does not. Right? A bunch of people in a square all exist as individual entities. The concept crowd is something that's in our head. The concepts are imperfectly derived from instances. And so if I have a group of 5 mammals and a lizard, and I say these are all lizards, then my concept is incorrect. My concepts, in the Platonic world, concepts trump instances. In the Aristotelian or objectivist world, instances trump concepts. And in the scientific world, instances trump concepts. In other words, if you have a theory, even if it works abstractly in a logical manner, If your theory does not accord with what is empirically measurable in the world, your theory fails. In other words, what happens in the world is what conditions our concepts. Our concepts do not condition what happens in the world. That, of course, I think is the basis of philosophy. Numbers are concepts, right? You have 5 coconuts in a row, there are 5 coconuts. Individually they exist. The number 5 is not floating above them in some subatomic format. So numbers are concepts that we use for arranging objects and grouping objects and manipulating objects within our minds to produce great effects, right? And getting a spaceship to Jupiter and beyond. So numbers don't exist, the concepts don't exist, and in any contradiction between concepts and instances, the instances must win, and the concepts must be adapted to fit the reality of the instances. And again, I've got a whole introduction to philosophy here on YouTube and on my podcast feed that you can check out at youtube.com/radio. So, my case is that the one thing that philosophy has that is directly actionable and also is unique to philosophy is the definition of promotion of moral excellence, of virtue and courage. And boy, oh boy, there's so much to do in the world when it comes to moral excellence. Reading articles like this, and this academic stuff that goes on, the trolley scenarios and this and that and the other, is so elementally crazy. It's so frustrating. I'll just give you one final analogy, if you will forgive me for going a little longer. But the way I see it, it's not proof, I'm just telling you the way that I see this kind of, it's like a masturbation climax. The way I see it is, the world is infected by a plague. And the plague is killing people left, right, and center. And we have a cure. But the cure is a tiny pill that's free to produce. We have a cure. Now, of course, a lot of people think that we're poisoning them when we're in fact healing them. That is the nature of being in philosophy. You always get accused of corrupting the young. You always get accused of hurting people and so on. Because having illusions stripped away is like peeling off a layer of leprous skin to reveal the healthy skin. And it's a very painful process. But the reality is we have a cure. It's reason and evidence and moral excellence. We have a cure for the world's ills. And that cure is most fundamentally promoting the benevolent, peaceful, and reasonable treatment of children. No hitting, no yelling, no timeouts, negotiation at all times. And that is the cure for the evils of the world. It's very well validated scientifically. It's very well validated morally. Violations of the initiation of force with regards to children is literally the demon seed, as the song says, that raises a flower of fire. And there are so many children being mistreated all over the world that you could bend your entire will and work 20 hours a day for the rest of your life, and you would barely scratch the surface of the harm done to children in the world through indoctrination, through abuse, through separation, through neglect, through abandonment, through rape, through beatings, through spankings, through all the things that children are subjected to, not even counting the educational claustrophobia that comes from jamming them in government schools and the financial predation that occurs from using them as collateral to bribe the voters in the here and now with their future productivity. So much harm is being done to children in the modern world. That is the cause of the ills in the modern world, at least most of them. And so much can be done by any individual who decides to commit himself or herself to working for the sane, peaceful, and rational protection of children's interests. You will never be done. You will never, ever run out of sick people to heal with the magic pill of the non-aggression principle, particularly within the family. So the people who think that this stuff that they're talking about has something to do with philosophy and has something to do with actually achieving good in the world, literally is like, we are screaming in the middle of a universal plague that is causing eye explosions and hair rot and arms to fall off and so on, and we're saying, we have pills, get these pills to people now! We've got to get these pills to people to save the world, to save the future. I have a child myself. I wanted to grow up in a more peaceful world than I did, and that means people got to start treating their children a hell of a lot better than they are. We have this pill, we have this cure, get this to the people, save them! Though the cure hurts, it saves not just individuals, but the world and the planet itself. So we have the pill, we have the prescription, and we know how to give it to people. Right. There are all all of these people milling around saying, well, we're the real doctors, you see. And who's to even know whether this world is real? Who's even to know whether the suffering is fake or real? Who is to know whether anyone has a choice? Who is to know why the world is the way the world is, or why the world is not the opposite of the world? And who is to know whether Zeus and tooth fairies do not exist? And we're like, damn it! Get out of the way! We have pills to give to people to save the world. Stop clogging the air with your gas bag nonsense! That's what it's like. Get out of the way. I'd send you to the children's table, people, but that would be an insult to children. So let go of all of this stuff. Maybe when the world is a perfectly peaceful place, we can all stare at the navels we got our belly lint and wonder why the world is not the opposite of the world. But right now, we have a world to save, so get out of the way with these abstractions that are a form of self-indulgent paralysis, the major horror of which it is so easily spread to others. The infection is distraction. The result is violence.
And again, that was from Stefan Molyneux. Hopefully you guys are hearing me. 'Cause I'm not hearing myself. Check. Again, hopefully you're hearing me, because again, I'm not hearing myself here. But, I have an article here out of the Blaze. Let me make sure everything's playing right here. Okay. This one's Representative Joe Garcia praised the benefits of communism Tuesday afternoon, telling his audience that it works in a Google Hangout session with voters. The Florida congressman's remarks were made during a larger discussion on the U.S. border, Mexico, and federal jobs and money in border towns. The safest city in America is El Paso, Texas. It happens to be across the border from the most dangerous city in the Americas, which is Juarez, right? Garcia asked. El Paso, Texas is actually the 14th safest city in the United States, according to the FBI. Two of the safest cities in America are on the border with Mexico. Of course, the reason is we've proved that communism works. If you give everybody a good government job, there is no crime, he added. So that's what you're getting out of some of these politicians. They're not exactly hiding what they want to accomplish. It's not something that's new at all. So maybe we should start rethinking some of it, maybe just a little bit. I have another one here while I'm here. This is one I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast. The major hunting and outdoor store at the center of a big gun lawsuit. Don Nugent was sentenced to 16 months in prison Monday after pleading guilty last month to falsifying firearms forms in June 2010 at a Gander Mountain store, Rochester, New York. There she was accompanied by William Spangler, who wasn't allowed to purchase a gun because he had previously been convicted of killing his 92-year-old grandmother with a hammer, which that part's not funny, but I just cannot speak today. Nugent paid $1,425 for 2 firearms, a semi-automatic rifle and a shotgun that Spangler eventually would use. On Christmas Eve 2012, Spangler, 61, shot and killed his sister before he torched the home they lived in. When Webster, New York, firefighters, When Webster, New York firefighters responded, Spangler began shooting, killing 2 firefighters. Tumez Karzaga and Michael Chiperney, and wounding 2 others, Ted Scarnio and Joseph Hostetler. A day after Nugent, now 24, was sentenced, or a day after, excuse me, having all kinds of issues. Okay. A day after Nugent, now 24, was sentenced, the firefighters and surviving family members are alleging in a lawsuit filed in New York State Court that the Minnesota-based Gander Mountain, the nation's largest outdoors and sportsman store, should have known the buyer was a straw purchaser, from Minneapolis Star-Tribune reported. The litigation could be far-reaching given the size of the retailer, which has drawn the backing of gun control advocates. The families are being represented by the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, a pro-gun control group. In joint statement, the plaintiffs said they first believed this was yet another random act of violence, but as time went by, new and very troubling facts emerged. The plaintiff's statement continued. These facts suggest that the loss we have endured could have been avoided if only the store had acted responsibly. The statement went on to assert the families respect the Second Amendment and inserted some families are gun owners. But we also believe that companies who make their business to sell guns must do so in a responsible and lawful manner, the statement continued. And when sellers fall short in their responsibility, they should be held accountable. A spokeswoman for Gander Mountain told the Star-Tribune the company had been forthcoming in the investigation and is committed to safety. We will vigorously defend ourselves in this matter, spokesman Jess Meyer said. The suit claims the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives warned gun dealers that indicators of straw purchase include multiple firearms being bought at once or more than one person entering the store together and paying with cash, which plaintiffs claim the store's staff should have known. Which, we've already proved that kind of, makes it hard when you have a couple buddies going to the store. One's going to buy him a new shotgun to go hunting with, and, well, we can't sell it to you because he came in with you. What? Well, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Multiple firearms. Again, depending on how much money you got. You get a tax return check or something, you've been eyeing 2 firearms. You might go there with a friend. It's just, again, they need someone to blame is what it comes down to. They can't look at it as the facts, you know. Well, it could, you know, those 2 things make it kind of suspicious, wouldn't you think? No. Not in a place where people are always going to a firearms store, or, you know. It's not. You look at it and you're going, hey, people have the right to go to a store together and buy a firearm. You know, one person wants to buy a firearm and not be a suspicious person. that's the thing. They want to make everyone suspicious. And they've done it pretty well so far. Again, one thing I've said in the past, how many block parties do you see anymore? Not too many. I would guess not too many. Okay. I was over here looking on inthelie.com. And let me find the one I was looking at. Oh, and you know how McCain was like, the surveillance state, we're just going to have to accept it now. Here's one out of inthelie.com. Senator Feinstein accuses CIA of spying on Senate computers. McCain considers probe. Oh, now you're being spied on and you want to probe. Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat from California, the head of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, accused the CIA of spying on Senate computers, violating both the Constitution and anti-hacking laws. Oh, now, when it's being done on you guys, it's not good, but just an individual American person, oh yeah, go ahead. Feinstein made the accusation on the Senate floor Tuesday morning, where she said the CIA might be guilty of committing a crime. You think? But so are you, Senator Dianne Feinstein. She accused CIA of improperly searching a congressional computer network used to investigate alleged CIA abuse in a Bush-era program. Feinstein confirmed that the CIA Inspector General referred the matter to the Justice Department, according to Fox News. Based on what Director John Brennan has informed us, I have grave concerns that the CIA search may have violated the separation of powers principles embodied by the United States Constitution, including the speech and debate clause. Feinstein said it may have undermined the Constitution framework essential to effective congressional oversight of intelligence activities or any other government function. Senator John McCain said an independent investigation into the allegations made Tuesday might be necessary to uncover if the CIA did in fact improperly access Senate computers, NBC reports. Intelligence officials have denied Feinstein's allegations. Nothing can be further from the truth. We wouldn't do that, Brennan said. He added that the appropriate authorities would be investigating the matter and that he defers to them to determine whether or not there was any violation of law or principle. Brennan said the CIA is committed to working with Congress and appreciates their oversight. My CIA colleagues and I believe strongly in congressional oversight, he said, according to Reuters. We are a far better organization because of congressional oversight. Other senators expressed outrage at the accusations after Feinstein spoke on the floor. Heads should roll. People should go to jail if it's true, said Senator Lindsey Graham. If it is, the legislative branch should declare war on the CIA. McCain also criticized CIA practices in general, telling reporters that he battled them for years over enhanced interrogation methods. I know that they concealed information concerning waterboarding. I know that for sure, because I fought with them several years in my opposition of waterboarding, McCain said. We had to pass a law to prohibit it before it would stop. Representative Steny Hoyer called for Feinstein's allegations to be investigated. It is a serious allegation. I think and Senator Feinstein is a serious legislator, so I don't think she made it lightly, he said. Yeah, okay, whatever. So far, the White House has remained relatively tight-lipped on the charges. White House spokesman Jay Carney would not discuss the accuracy of the allegations during his press conference Tuesday, but did say that Obama has great confidence in Brennan, according to NBC News. If you saw the CIA director say today that if there was an inappropriate activity by CIA or by Senate Intelligence Committee staff, he would, of course, want to get to the bottom of it. And certainly the president would agree with that, Carney said. We would love to hear your opinion, NLI.com. Again, NLI.com. It's one of those things too, they get awful concerned when they think they're being spied on. Wonder why. Wonder what they might have to hide. But, your privacy, your individual privacy is just what they would look at as a peon is so important that we should just accept that we're being spied on. That's basically what I get from that. It's okay that you're spied on. You shouldn't have anything to hide, but they shouldn't be spied on, even though they're supposed to be the representatives. But you can't know what's going on in their life. Oh no. Definitely, on top of it being the congressional, shouldn't we know everything that they're doing? That would seem more likely. There was another one I seen here. I just had a cover. Obama administration weighing another drone strike on U.S. citizen accused of terrorism. Again, this one's out of NLI.com. Obama administration officials revealed that they are considering a drone strike on a U.S. citizen who they say is a member of Al-Qaeda and actively planning attacks on Americans abroad. In May of last year, Attorney General Eric Holder publicly confirmed that U.S. drone strikes have killed 4 American citizens in Yemen and Pakistan without charge or trial. In the same month, Obama announced new restrictions on drone strikes, which some say may be breached in this case. While the Obama administration's policy is that only the military can kill Americans overseas who are suspected terrorists, officials said the president could buck those guidelines and allow the CIA to use drone strike, according to the National Journal. The Associated Press cited 4 unnamed U.S. officials who said that the suspected terrorist is currently a national that refuses to allow U.S. military operations on their soil. The country also reportedly is unable to pursue the unidentified American citizens. 2 of the officials said that the man is an Al-Qaeda facilitator who is directly responsible for deadly attacks on American citizens overseas. The man also continues to plan attacks against them that would use improvised explosive devices, according to 2 officials cited by AP. Yet another U.S. official said that the Department of Defense is not yet settled on if the man is actually dangerous enough to merit the potential domestic fallout of killing an American without charging him with a crime or trying him. Another concern would be the significant international issues that could arise if an operation was carried out in a country that will not allow U.S. military action on their territory. A different U.S. official told the AP that the Pentagon already decided to recommend killing the man. The suspected terrorist is reportedly in a well-guarded remote location any attempt to capture him using U.S. troops without the approval of the local government would be risky and even more politically explosive than the U.S. missile strike, the AP reports citing military officials. The procedure is the same as the one followed when the U.S. killed Anwar al-Awlaki in Yemen in 2011. Al-Awlaki was a well-known militant cleric and U.S. citizen. The Justice Department has to build a case showing that the killing Killing of the American is legal, and constitutional administration has to show that the Pentagon can take action against the citizen as an enemy combatant under the 2011 authorization for use of military force. Under the new Obama administration guidelines, they must show the target poses continuing imminent threat to U.S. persons. Lethal force can only be used to prevent or stop attacks against U.S. persons, and even then only when capture is not feasible and no other reasonable alternatives exist to address the threat effectively. The AP, as per the government request, withheld the name of the country because U.S. officials said it could interrupt ongoing counter-terror operations. The Pentagon, CIA, and Justice Department all declined to comment for the AP. This is all a draw-up, really. This is going to draw up to the point where they can go, well, we think you're a terrorist, you're on U.S. soil, we can detain you without trial. No, we might not be able to drone strike you, but we'll detain you without trial instead of drone striking you without trial. You know, kind of same thing. I think that's really what this potentially will lead up to. That's why this is so dangerous. The reason this is dangerous because crazy people get away with crazy things. And all these counterterrorism stuff is not going to stop any of it. But what it does is it potentially ends up attacking you. It gets used by tyrants and true criminals to attack you. That's why it's dangerous. Just because you can do it and it could potentially be done successfully and only go after real criminals, human nature shows that's not what will happen. Human nature does not agree with that. I think that's where the big problem is. I'm going to shoot back over here to benswan.com. And this one's kind of like a really crappy thing. Chipotle bans guns caves to pressure from Bloomberg-backed group. Denver, Chipotle has decided to ban guns in their stores after caving to pressure by moms demand action for gun sense in America, a Michael Bloomberg-backed gun control group. After photos surfaced on social media of armed representatives of Open Carry, Texas at a Dallas area Chipotle, moms demand action for guns since in America began circulating a petition that received over 10,000 signatures according to a press release by the group. Subsequently, the Denver-based company on Monday afternoon released a statement that said, the issue of gun ownership or gun rights has become one of the most contentious debates in the country. Chipotle has never taken a position on the issue as we focus instead on our mission to change the way people think about and eat fast food. Recently, participants from an open carry demonstration in Texas brought guns, including military-style assault rifles, into one of our restaurants, causing many of our customers anxiety and discomfort. Because of this, we are respectively asking that customers not bring guns into our restaurants unless they are authorized law enforcement personnel, which is the problem here. Law enforcement personnel kill more innocent people. They harm more innocent people, but they can bring their guns in. That's the problem. Was there an incident? Did some of those gun owners accidentally discharge their weapons? No. Well, then what the hell is the problem? You'll let law enforcement that are always discharging their weapon, it seems. But, you know, the guy that keeps his stuff holstered, no. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but I know a lot of people that are concealed carry, and unless there's something on the door, they're going to conceal carry, and probably even if there is, you won't ever know. Because guess what? Criminals don't care what rules you set. And I urge people to counteract it. Don't let these groups like this Moms, which is complete BS anyways, this group that's really another front group for Michael Bloomberg. Don't let this, you know, if you circulate a petition, think about this. We have a lot of this leftist idea like this, anti-gun stuff, and it's not popular. The problem is it's not actually popular. Anti-gun stuff is not actually popular among a lot of people in America. But these groups are being funded by people like Michael Bloomberg and being pushed, and they're relentless. And you let them, with their, 10,000 signatures, be able to control the lives of people that could easily reach hundreds of thousands of signatures. Go start a petition. Show Chipotle that we don't care about those 10,000 people. They can't take our rights away. We understand you're a private business, and you have the right. But we're going to say that we have right to our self-protection, and, well, might not eat there if you won't allow that. And there's going to be people, again, where they can conceal carry, still having a firearm that you just won't know about. Criminals will definitely not care, and, well, now they know, hey, guess what, Chipotle, more than likely, unless there's a cop in there, more than likely there's not going to be firearms in there. We'll rob them. That's what a criminal's going to look at. Hey, Chipotle's going to be unarmed unless there's a cop. Think about that, Chipotle. Come on. Like the food, but wow. They're definitely being controlled by the few and potentially going to piss off the many. Excuse me there. Hairball or something, jeez. Had one more if I can find it now. And if you thought Google couldn't get any crazier, this one coming out of Infowars.com. Google wants to display Target ads on your refrigerator. Google plans to use smart devices such as refrigerators and thermostats connected to the internet to serve targeted advertisements to users in the near future, according to its recent filing with the Security Exchange Commission. SEC. SEC. That's another alphabet group. In the filing, the multinational tech company refused to disclose how much money it makes from displaying ads on mobile devices because Google expects the definition of mobile to continue to evolve and as more and more smart devices gain traction in the market. For example, a few years from now, we and other companies could be serving ads and other content on refrigerators, car dashboards, thermostats, glasses, and watches, to name just a few possibilities. The company stated, "Our expectation is that users will be using our services and viewing our ads on an increasingly wide diversity of devices in the future, and thus our advertising systems are becoming increasingly device agnostic." Enhanced Campaigns Google Target Ad Program was specifically designed to help advertisers become more efficient in a multi-device future. Rather than writing unique desktop campaigns, handset campaigns, and tablet campaigns, etc., Enhanced Campaigns allows advertisers to write one ad campaign which we serve dramatically to the right user at the right time on whatever device makes the most sense. So in other words, Google could determine your eating habits based on the data it already collects on you and then displays appropriate food advertisement on your refrigerator. Or perhaps even display ads for summer clothes or sweaters on your thermostat. And considering the political groups are increasingly using advertisements to influence public opinion, it's not entirely far-fetched to envision gun control groups using smart devices to push their anti-gun agenda in the privacy of your own home. For the past several years, we have warned that Google was steadily creeping into Americans' daily lives. In December, Google Engineering Director Scott Huffman said that Google was working on a concept involving microphones mounted in the house that would respond to verbal queries, much like the Enterprise computer on Star Trek. Google will answer you the same way a person would answer, he said, and said to the Independent. And in August, we revealed that Google was developing a head-mounted device, perhaps a future incarnation of Google Glass that would have the ability to track eye movements, allowing Google to analyze user reactions to advertisements displayed on electronic devices. The infrared emotional state information can be provided to an advertiser so that the advertiser can gauge the success of their advertising campaign, the patent filing states. Let's not also forget that in 2012, Google patented the technique to use environmental factors, such as sounds gathering through a smart device's sensors to target ads at users. The device could theoretically display a dog food ad, for example, if it hears dogs barking in the background. The developments, of course, raise legitimate concerns about how involved one company should be in your life, especially a company such as Google, which has known ties to the intelligence community. This is our future if we don't really stand up to companies like Google. I recommend getting away from Google ads completely. Don't use them. Go to, there's a lot of different ad services that are being used by a lot of, different websites. I forget. One of them I seen was a decent one. It was like info ads, or I'm not sure. But there's other, you can find other things that are like Google ads. Really, I try to stay away from Google as much as possible anymore. I have the YouTube channel, which I'm going to use because it is a source, and unfortunately I do have to deal with Google being someone that has a website. But, it's one of those things that we also need to take advantage of other companies that will make it their goal not to do these things. Google has their little claim, do no evil, and their arrogance is allowing them to do such a thing. And I question whether sometimes, depending on the person within Google, whether it's arrogance or deception. Because there is one of the guys that I truly look at him as being deceptive. I truly think the guy is really, truly deceptive. I'm not going to name names, and just there was two of them that had an interview with Glenn Beck that you can find, and you could tell by body language, and there's deception going on there, and it's obvious in the body language. And do no evil is not what Google is doing. It's doing the opposite. It's creating a source of evil. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you're really looking at the ramifications of what you're doing. And I think companies like Google, that even if they're looking at the ramifications, if they're going, well, that safety or that privacy should go to the wayside because, well, this would just help you. Your privacy is not important because this would help you so much. We're not trying to do evil. We're trying to help you. That is their mentality. Their arrogance is the source of its evil. And there's some that are so deceptive. They understand that you want privacy and they just don't care. That's the deceptive nature, I believe, to be in a lot of these people. So, we're reaching a point that if we don't really start opting out of Google, as individuals, I'm not saying, let's start a big boycott and just you have to take the initiative, and, as much as possible, again, running websites, we're kind of stuck to a lot of these big corporate entities, but, I use them as little as possible now. And when, Ben Swan, one thing he's done, is he's been able to put a different type of player on his website that it's not just on YouTube. So you can use that. And the player does sometimes, some of the videos are sourcing out of YouTube, but I think there's a lot of great ideas out there. And, as much as possible, try to get away. And, I use Start Page for searching, and that helps keep me, from being tracked. But they still use Google to enhance the search results, but it does it in a, way that doesn't save your IP address and track you and pick cookies. So, you know, these are just things that you can work on, but it doesn't mean that you can always get away from it 100%. We need to try to find those other companies that are offering services that can, you know, put out the abilities that these other corporations are and help prop them up as long as they really adhere to your privacy. And a lot of that is checking your terms of service. You know, a lot of us click I agree without checking terms of service. And another thing is we also have to take the initiative to try to start something that is truly going to be for the people, not just for profit. You know, I pour money in my website and don't get money out, but my website's kind of stagnant currently at this time, so I've had so much going on that I've not wanted to move forward with what I'm planning, but I'm working on getting the infrastructure set up, and it's definitely taken a lot longer than I expected, and plus with some other personal stuff going on, I've been so busy, it's my mind's all boggled right now, you know. It's spinning. But it's slowly getting there, and, you know, I'll keep you guys updated on, you know, how far I get with it. I want to thank Jules, for her patience with me and for her intro again. She did some editing, and hopefully the intro that she made up won't be getting tagged by the BS, copyright thing YouTube has going. It's just, that thing's a joke. It's, again, you know, that's why I'm going to start using the other channel I previously made, because, I've had a lot of fictitious, copyright claims on a lot of my stuff too. And it's a deliberate attack, and I know who it's coming from. I see who it's coming from. And another thing, you know, one thing I want to really work on is creating basically a YouTube type backup where everything will be able to be shared and not taken down, or false copyright claims being taken against it. Definitely documentaries and stuff that I have the right to share for free. It's not like I have ads or something on it. You know, these are false claims. Again, we need to find those alternate sources. Stay tuned here on UCY.TV for Try This at Home with Dana Martin, and then Boiler Room Radio with Jim Funke. Take care, and I'll see you Friday.